Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Micaela, and first of all, Happy New Year! Happy 2016. This year's gonna be great. So today I kind of wanted to make like an updated 2016 list of ways that you can get to Japan. If that is something that's on your mind for this year or maybe even the next year and you want to start planning or you want to just know what your options are or what my personal opinion about these options are, then this is the right video for you. Congratulations. Good clicking judgment, I think. Since we're gearing up to the 2020 Olympics here in Japan, Japan has been really focused on becoming more international, more accepting towards foreigners, more friendly towards foreigners, and I think it makes it a lot easier for first-timers to come visit the country. Now is your chance. Nowadays, there are tons of options for foreigners looking to visit Japan, whether it be for a very short-term or long-term period, and really what it comes down to is the kind of experience that you are looking to have. First of all, if you are under 18 or still a high school student, you really only have a few choices. If you are a high school student, the most challenging but also the most rewarding experience would be that of an exchange student in a Japanese high school. If you are currently enrolled in high school in your own country, you may qualify for a pre-college student visa. This is actually one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life, was being a high school student here in Japan. Although I had the preconception that I was going to come to Japan, come to a Japanese high school, and go back to Canada having made lots of Japanese friends, it turns out that when you can't speak Japanese, you can't really express yourself and people don't get to know you, and that can be really frustrating at first. It takes a while to get used to reading kanji. It takes a while for you to relate to the high school experience here. The other big thing to consider is that Japanese high school students spend a lot of their time either at after-school club activities or studying in cram school, because getting into college is like the biggest hurdle of a high school student's life. So they're very busy and they don't really have a lot of time to hang out. They don't really like hang out like we do in Canada, so I think it's a very challenging experience, but it's also the most rewarding because you put yourself in these positions where you're experiencing a brand new culture and you're kind of forcing yourself to both accept and grow at the same time. And I think that when you're young, that's something that's a lot easier to do. Like, I'm really glad that I was a high school student, but if anyone were to ask me to do it all over again right now, I'd be like, nah. Another option would be to come to Japan on a tourist visa. Some Japanese language schools offer short-term classes for people who are visiting Japan on a tourist visa. And if you're on a tourist visa, some schools offer 12-week courses. I believe some schools also offer 4-week courses, as long as you can afford a place to stay while you're here, and school fees, of course. This is a good way to kind of experience what it's like to live in Japan without the actual commitment of living in Japan forever. Especially if you're a high school student and you don't really want to do the whole exchange student thing, you could try to come over maybe on summer vacation and take a 4-week language school course while, you know, just getting a feel for the daily life here. And then when you graduate, if Japan is where you really want to be, you can kind of work towards coming back. The most expensive but also most convenient and least stressful way of seeing as much of Japan as possible in a short period of time would be to join an all-inclusive tour such as Kontiki or Intrepid. I think Intrepid actually has a lot of Japanese tours ranging from 4 days to like 2 weeks. And although the prices are quite high, they do include everything like accommodation and food and attractions. A lot of people are like, ew, the tourist experience, gross. But I think that if you want to just get like a really comfortable, safe introduction to Japan without having to think about too much or plan too much yourself, this is actually a great way to see all of the really important, beautiful sights, eat a lot of the most important, delicious food, and, you know, get the experience because you're with someone who knows the country. If you really don't want the touristy experience, finally, you could always just come on a tourist visa, pay for accommodation, and plan your own travel schedule and do everything yourself. But that, you know, that's totally up to you. A working holiday visa is also a great option for those of you who have completed high school but are under 30 years old. However, it's always kind of hard to talk about this because Americans do not have access to the working holiday visa, and it kind of sucks for them. But a lot of Canadians, Australians, Europeans visit Japan on working holiday visas, and each country has its own rules, so I can only talk about it kind of generally. Working holiday allows you to visit Japan for a longer time than a tourist visa does, plus you also get permission to work, so you can kind of support yourself and pay your way along as you're traveling or living in Japan. People who come visit on working holiday usually end up on short-term contracts teaching English, or they work at farms. Farm work is actually a lot of fun. I recommend that. finally, if you're looking for more long-term options, you've decided that absolutely you want to try your best to spend as much time in Japan as possible, you have 3 options. You can come as a post-secondary student, you can come as an employee of a company, or you can get married. Pursuing post-secondary education, college, university, or specialty school in Japan is actually a lot of fun, and a lot of people will recommend university exchanges over high school exchanges just because they're less strict. The other students also have more free time. They're usually a little more open-minded, more friendly, more outgoing. They're willing to talk to foreigners and teach them more about their culture. In high school, a lot of students are just really busy studying and trying to get their way through high school so they can get to a good college. And I'm not really sure about this because I never did this one, but you know, there are lots of scholarships you can apply for, bursaries to help with the monetary burden as well. And you will get permission to work part-time, so you can kind of like pay your way along. That's how I paid for everything in Japan when I was a student, was I taught English on the side. Or another option is that you can enter Japanese university as an international student and take your whole 4 years of education in Japan. If you go to an international university, they may be able to accommodate you more. But if you want to pursue your whole 4 years in Japan, you have to be able to speak Japanese to a certain degree. When I applied to Fukuoka School of Music to study music and entertainment, I had already done 2 years in a Japanese language school, working holiday, and the high school thing. So I already had a pretty extensive history here in Japan, and I could speak Japanese well enough to communicate that I really did want to study and I was going to work really, really hard. Also, it was a music school, so I mean, like, you don't really need to know much Japanese to study music, but anyway. Now, if you're finished college and you have a degree, the good news is you qualify for a work visa. So as long as you can find a Japanese sponsor, a company to sponsor your visa here in Japan, if you have a degree, you can come to Japan to work, and your company will eventually be your boss and you will eventually be their bitch. Most people who just graduate university will come to Japan and teach English. And I think there are a lot of people who hear this and they're like, well, I don't want to teach English, what other options do I have? But in fact, teaching English is actually the best way to get your foot in the door when you want to start a long life in Japan. Not only is there a huge demand for English teachers, it's also just the easiest to get when applying from overseas. And it's just, the hours aren't as bad as working in a Japanese company. You won't be working long, crazy overtime hours. There are a lot of people who are like, what, I can't be an English teacher. And if you really don't like people, then don't be an English teacher, because that's not fair to the kids. But I mean, even if it's not your first ideal career choice, it should be an option, because this is a good opportunity to just get to know Japan and kind of build other connections and kind of figure out what other skills you need to get the job that you want. Finally, you could also get married for a visa, but I would not recommend that even to my worst enemy, because it's a bad idea. Japanese divorce laws are not the same as they are in your own country. If you're in love with someone, go for it, get married. I praise you, but if you're just getting married for a visa, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Trust me. I'll put some further reading links below so you can kind of look deeper into the options that interest you and find out whether or not you qualify. Yeah, good luck this year, honestly. Good luck to all of us trying to make it in this big old world. It's a new year, a new start. There's so many possibilities in the future, so how are you going to make this year work for you? Let me know in the comments. I will talk to you again soon. Happy New Year. Good luck, everybody. Bye. Kit, you want to hear this? Are you here to hear my story? Kit, you here to hear my story? Yeah? Alright, Kit. The only impossible journey is the one you never begin. You think about that. You think about that hard.